Chapter 1. Perfect Soldier. 12. Not a sound can be heard in the dark alley. Just the regular ticking of a watch. It's over. The cries have stopped. The pleads. The choking. It's so quiet now. 10 sighs. 12. It's getting better. It used to take him longer. Back when he first had it. The street is plunged in darkness. It's the middle of the night already, and the only source of light comes from the main road further down. Jungwoo should come out soon. Ten walks over the bodies. The pool of blood spreads out more and more with every minute. Jungwoo needs to hurry. He kneels before the man, bleeding out on the ground, cold, dead. Ten smiles. The neck has been so cleanly slit. He's proud of his work, but he knows his new knives have done most of the job. Ten cleans his blade with his finger, watching with a strange fascination as the drop of blood trails down his hand, tainting the sleeve of his dress shirt. He shrugs. It's not like the rest of his shirt wasn't splashed with blood anyway. That's why he wears black. It's not the best, but it does the job. He gets up and stares at his work. The two gang members lie lifeless on the ground, having died slowly, painfully, choking on their own blood. It was what they deserved anyway. Dan sighs again and leans nonchalantly on the cold and humid wall. He kicks a rock, getting impatient, waiting for his colleague. He always preferred to work alone. But the boss had told them both to take care of this. And even though Ten knows he could have done it all by himself, orders are orders. Ten got his knife out and played with it, the moonlight reflecting on the blade, sending shadows then loosing on his face. The piercings on his ears glinted. Ten's watch reads 1:30 when Jungwoo finally gets out from the back door. He scrunches his nose in disgust at the sight of the bodies, and Ten suppresses a smile. "How long did it take you? I was in there for 20 minutes only," Jungwoo says with a soft voice. 12, Ten answers, without looking up at him. 12 minutes? Jungwoo sounds impressed. That's... wow. Seconds, Ten corrects him. Oh. Jungwoo slowly takes a step back, and there's a mix of admiration and terror in his eyes. Ten knows Jungwoo is the opposite of him. He rarely kills anyone when he has the choice. This is mostly why the boss thinks they make a good team. Ten takes care of the killing and Jungwoo of everything else that bores Ten. "Do you want to drive?" Jungwoo offers, balancing the car keys of his middle finger. Ten doesn't answer, but snatches the key from his hand and walks to the car parked on the main road. They walk in silence. They drive in silence. Ten always drives when they get back from missions. It helps him clear his head. Jungwoo knows this. He also knows he's not the talking type, so he stays quiet. Ten drives fast and swiftly through the cold streets of Busan in their shiny and expensive black car. They reach the headquarters in no time, leaving the car in the underground parking. The doors slamming echo in the almost empty parking lot. The place is bathed in an ill greenish light, and it makes Jungwoo shiver every time. Ten walks out, the sound of his quick steps echoing in the staircase, and Jungwoo follows. Once they enter their main house, the floor is covered in a smooth carpet which muffles the sound of their steps. They walk for a few minutes, through the corridors with paintings and gilded frames, and expensive Chinese vases, until they reach the carpeted red door they had been searching for. Jungwoo steps up first and pushes the door open. The room inside seems even richer than the rest of the mansion. The walls are covered with bookshelves, and a glistening crystal chandelier hangs from the ceiling. There's a man sitting on the chair behind the huge mahogany in the back of the room. He doesn't lift his head when the two boys enter. Another man is here too, sitting carelessly on the edge of the desk, and there's a strange familiarity that emanates from the two men. The man is on the phone and he seems in a passionate discussion in English. Jungwoo has no idea what he's saying, but he guesses something is wrong since he doesn't seem pleased. He ends the call when Jungwoo and Ten reach the desk. "Sit down," says the man sitting behind the desk. He looks young, not older than 23. His black hair is slicked back and lets his undercut appear on the right side of his head. There's a sort of strong, reassuring but intimidating aura coming from him at first sight. Ten sits down on one of the armchairs in front of the desk, throwing his leg over his knee. "So, how did it go?" the man asks. Jungwoo lets Ten answer. He knows his relationship with the boss is closer than his. Ten speaks in a calm voice and gives a clear summary of how the mission went, which is none other than exactly as they had planned. "I took care of Sojun and Taeyeon from the 7 stars, as you asked, and Jungwoo re-established our control of the Somian nightclub." "Perfect," says the man with a satisfied smile. "Have you thought about how the 7 stars will react when they find out, Tail?" The man sitting on the desk intervenes. "They probably know already," Ten says. The boss, Tail, looks up at the other man with a smirk, and they seem to have a silent conversation that neither Jungwoo nor Ten can pick up. "Well, you're the boss after all. I trust you," the man ends up saying, picking up his phone again and scrolling indifferently. "Johnny?" Tail asks with a soft tone. "Can you please escort Jungwoo to UK? He hasn't trained today." Johnny snorts. "I don't think he needs me to escort." Tail's insistent looks cut Johnny off in the middle of his sentence. He throws a glance at Ten, who seems lost in his thoughts, then back to Tail, and it feels like he understands something. The next thing he knows is dragging Jungwoo out of the room, closing the door behind them. Tail draws his attention back to Ten. He watches the way his silver hair falls in front of his eyes, growing longer with every day that passes. He watches the countless piercings on his ears. He marvels at how young Ten seems, yet it looks like he's lived 1,000 years. You could read on his face that he hadn't had the easiest life, yet you couldn't guess anything from his expression. He was an open book, yet a mystery all at once. He was Tail's most precious soldier. The silence drags on, so Ten, feeling Tail's eyes on him, clears his throat. "Right. Ten, I have a new mission for you, but you don't have to accept it. I can put Yuta and Win-Win on the job if you prefer." Ten narrows his eyes. Tail knows as much as he does that he's ready to do anything, no matter how cruel, no matter how dirty. So him offering to put someone else on the job is unsettling for Ten, to say the least. "Why would I refuse? What is it?" It's, Tail starts clearing his throat. "It's about Lee Corp." Ten's face shuts down, his eyes tainting with a dark and murderous look, his knuckles turning white from the force he's grabbing the armrest with. His breathing is heavy as he hisses between his teeth. "What about them?" Tail knows that look all too well. That is what a merciless murder looks like. This is what Ten looks like before he's slitting his victim's throat, before he's cutting their fingers one by one, slowly, with that crazy smirk and a cruel glint in his eyes. And this is exactly what Tail feared, and why he hesitated in offering him the job. Now that Ten's turned into assassin mode, Tail is slightly regretting his decision to tell him about the mission, but he can't back off now. They've been threatening for way too long, and it's time we do something about it. We're going to bring them down. The plan is to kidnap Lee's son and hold him hostage. We'll ask for a ransom, high enough so that it ruins them. And if ever he values his company more than his only family, We kill the sun, and we kill Lee. A wicked smile spreads on Ten's face as he listens carefully to the plan. A smile that would send shivers down anyone's back. A smile no one would ever like to be faced with. A smile that's thirsty for blood. I'll do it, Ten says finally, looking up at Dale with that greed in his eyes. Are you sure? You know, with the history you have with them, Johnny and I thought you might be too unstable to do this. We need to keep the sun alive. I will kill that Lee bastard if he's ever unlucky enough to be in the same room as I am. But I will do my job with the sun. I can control myself, Ten says harshly. Dale looks relieved. He knows he can trust Ten to do his job. He's never had anything to say about how he handled his mission. Although, Ten adds, I can't guarantee I'll send him back with all his fingers. Careful! A voice screams as a sharp knife grazes a boy's hair. The boy looks in shock at having been almost killed, his big brown eyes blown wide. His light brown hair falls messily in front of his eyes, half sticking to his forehead. He wipes the sweat off his face and finally yells back at the voice. Can you please not try to kill me? We're supposed to be training, he says, and he's half angry, half not. Oh yeah, and what's the first rule of training, UK? Jungwoo asks, rolling his eyes. UK stands there a bit awkwardly, all tall but looking so small under Jungwoo's mentor voice. The first rule, Jungwoo starts again, is to always stay focused, which clearly you were not. Me throwing knives at you isn't the best time to suddenly decide to watch you Dan Win-Win train. This statement seems to spark UK's interest again, and his gaze travels back to the two men fighting beside them in the room. One of them has blonde hair, the other dark brown. They look like complete opposites. One shy, one confident. Yet they complement each other. No one could picture one without the other. The way they fight is so fluid, so familiar. It seems so easy, like they know exactly what the other is going to do. And UK is fascinated by the way they move together, like he cannot quite comprehend how they work. UK, Jungwoo says again, sighing. But don't you find it fascinating? The way they fight. It's like they don't need words to communicate. UK turns to him excitedly. Because they don't. How is it possible? Do you think we'll be able to do that one day? UK asks, and it makes Jungwoo blush slightly. Jungwoo knows UK didn't have the easiest childhood. None of them have here. But he sometimes forgets everything he's done. He forgets that he stole, that he killed. When he looks at him like that, with hope in his eyes as excited as a kid on Christmas morning, Jungwoo forgets it all. I doubt it. They've known each other since they were kids. They grew up training together. Jungwoo answers softly. We'll get there. I'll work hard. UK almost screams in enthusiasm. Jungwoo smiles. Even though the kid is the loudest person he knows, he always manages to seem endearing. Or maybe it's just Jungwoo. UK joined their gang, the Eye of the Dragon, almost a year ago now. He arrived from China, where the gang culture is not as developed as in Korea, but he still somehow managed to get every single Chinese gang on his back after messing with them. So he fled here, where he sought protection in the Eye of the Dragon. He's a tall 19-year-old boy who's strong, enthusiastic, brave, and who won't hesitate to kill if needed. Exactly what the gang wanted. And so when he arrived, Jungwoo, who had never been anyone's mentor in his life, had been appointed to train him and teach him everything he would need to know. It had been challenging with someone like UK, but the boy is willing, and he's trying his best all the time, even though he screams out and no one understands what he's doing half of the time. Let's take a break. I just came back from mission and I wouldn't say no to a good night's sleep, Jungwoo finally says, putting away his knives and taking UK's from his hands. The latter lets him do it. He watches him the whole time with a sparkle in his eyes of something Jungwoo can't really pinpoint. He puts it on the excitement from seeing Yuta and Win-Win fight without asking further questions. Ten passes by them as they're about to leave the training room. It doesn't even look at them. Jungwoo doesn't mind. He knows Ten likes to be alone, so he just leaves him be. UK, on the other hand, has made it a challenge to see Ten smile at least once, so he's taking every opportunity he gets to get closer to him. Hey Ten, how are you doing? Are you going on mission again? He asks, noticing how Ten is still all geared up. Ten turns back to them. He looks deadly. 2 knives in hand, guns in his thigh holsters, combat boots, fingerless black leather gloves, a black shirt and leather jacket. His eyes are almost shining with revenge. Jungwoo takes a step back, which seems to happen often when he sees Ten. Surprisingly enough, Ten answers the question. Yes, I leave in 3 hours for the Lee Cup mansion, he says with a smirk. Yuki is about to say something when Jungwoo beats him to it, not wanting him to wander on that subject. Oh, well, good luck. We have to go, so we'll see you later, he says with a fake enthusiasm, waving goodbye. Jungwoo drags Yuki out of the room before he can say anything more, which only makes him pout. What was that about? Yuki asks. You do not talk about Lee Corp to Ten. You don't. Ever. And most of all, you don't ask questions. Yuki opens his mouth to protest, but the look in Jungwoo's eyes convinces him otherwise. He seems more serious than he has ever seen him. They walk in silence through the dimly lit corridors until they reach the dormitory. Jungwoo leaves Yuki to his room, recommending him to get a few hours of sleep before they start training again. Yuki lays down on the single bed in the corner of his room. It's a small room, a bed and a desk, the bare necessities, with barely nothing on the walls except a few pictures that Yuki has taped above his bed. That one band he likes, that movie he's seen at least 20 times, him and Jungwoo smiling. Yuki will never get tired of looking at them. Yuki starts thinking, staring at the ceiling. He thinks about training, and Jungwoo, and the gang, the missions that await him, and Jungwoo, his childhood in China, everything that he went through, and Jungwoo. Somehow, everything seemed to come back to him. The light of a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling flickers in the dark room. There's water falling from a pipe in the wall. Plip, plop, plip, plop. A man is sitting on a sagging couch, his legs crossed, waiting. His fingers tap impatiently on the armrest of the couch. Tap, 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 tap. Someone coughs, standing next to him. A man dressed in black, clothes so neat and rich, contrasting with the atmosphere of the room. Everything in the air seems tensed, suspended in time, waiting for something, someone. Finally, the large iron door opens in a creaking sound that makes the standing man wince. The something is happening. The newcomer looks tired, breathless. He's holding himself on his knees to try and catch his breath. Talk, says the man on the couch in a voice that leaves no other option. They killed them, he blurts out. Every single one of them. They killed them all, boss. Who did it? He asks, slowly dragging out his words, anger boiling inside of him. The eye of the dragon. 2 of their men. The man's mouth stretches in a deformed smile, the scar on his upper lip more visible. The glint in his eyes screamed nothing but murderous intent. We'll make them regret ever being born. We'll kill every last one of them.